plants are still growing. We're still harvesting so much food, and it is October 1st. Hi, it is Robbie from Southern California, and we're going to do a walkabout, going around the garden, and I'll show you the different things and what I plan on doing this fall. Now, this is the wall garden. It's basically the driveway garden, and well, I haven't added anything really new in. You probably have seen my corn, and the corn is starting to develop. They look a little small, so I'm not sure how well they got pollinated, but I had to tool this in because otherwise I wouldn't have had any corn because the deer and the animals would have taken it out. But all in all, it seems to have done pretty good. We'll see. Even if it's small, small is better than nothing. I don't know if I'll grow any more corn until next year. We'll see. The squash, all the zucchini and different squash are still growing. I haven't picked the eggplant quick enough, so a lot of them have turned yellow. I could at this point, I do have purple ones. I could collect the seeds from the yellow ones because that is actually a ripe eggplant. You want the eggplant before it turns. So we'll see what happens, what I decide to do, or I could just compost it. The peppers are doing fantastic. Look at my black cobras. I've been picking them and freezing them. And then I've got some other peppers down there. So right now what I've been doing is going through and freezing a lot of stuff so I have it for the winter. That's important. But let's kind of just walk through because nothing really new even from a month ago, except the plants are just continuously growing, and that is good. Now there was a chain. I don't know if you remember, but the chain was hanging down holding up my dragonfly. And look, the Malabar spinach is coming from this tote. It grows wild now. Out of this one, which I want to do maybe radishes in again. And then I think it's coming from another one down there where there's tomatoes now growing that came up. But look, it is going up the wall. Isn't that cool? So if you had Malabar spinach and it could grow in your area, and here it seems to really like the fall, you could have it take over the wall. But keep in mind, in the spring that all dies back. So you got a lot of cleaning to do because it just turns brown. That is a Goliath tomato that came up from the base again. They grow really big tomatoes. I prefer the smaller ones. You get much more on smaller tomato varieties, you know, like Sun Golds or even Early Girls, which are hybrids, by the way. So when you keep those seeds on those, you don't necessarily always get the same ones. And like I said, here I haven't done anything. Let's keep on walking. I've got to decide what I'm going to do with that avocado tree that came up. It's so nice and straight. It's almost worth pulling out and seeing if I can graft on it later or whatever. Look at this, the basil. I didn't even notice it's coming back beautiful. Kind of died back a little bit, as you can see, and now it's growing from the base, purple basil, and I still have carrots in here, and this I do want to collect. These are carrot seeds. So I do want to collect the carrot seeds. Then I've got popolo that's come up. I don't have to plant it. I let it plant itself, and then wherever it comes up, I'm happy with. And some of this I've been keeping for the birds because the birds are coming in and eating the seeds off the sow thistle. I do have basil seeds there, and they've been eating that as well, and that sow thistle coming from the bottom. The hummingbirds are no longer nesting, so they're not collecting the fuzz. But in the spring and early summer, this is what the hummingbirds collect and build their nests out of, or at least they line it so it's nice and soft for the babies. But right now, well, it can go on the ground. The other birds will find it. That's seeds for the goldfinches and other birds. This is beautiful. Definitely want to get these off before I leave them too long and get those frozen. So let's step over into the front yard. I'm kind of letting the front yard do its own thing because I'm kind of deciding on what I want to do with it. It's nice to come out here and sit. And I didn't plant really much squash except for that one, which I have been getting squash off of in the puzzle bed that Gary built me out of cement. Isn't that beautiful? Oh, my heart is covered up. Look, isn't that gorgeous? This is powdery mildew, and as you can see today, look at that, we are cloudy and we're damp. So it causes a lot of powdery mildew on our squash plants, but it doesn't seem to bother them. They still will produce, and look at the new leaves, how beautiful and green they are. These just have to be trimmed, and yes, I compost them. Then I've got multiple types of brassicas. I've got a purple tree collard. I think that one's a broccoli, and that one just could be a hybrid that I stuck in there because I do a lot of cuttings. Tomato plant growing there, and a flat leaf parsley. Just kind of trying to figure out what I want to do in here. It's actually too sunny for ginger and turmeric in the summer. And it's not really sunny enough to grow all the squash I used to grow back there because I have let the trees get big. Yes, we can chop them down, but it brings in so many birds. Different types of woodpeckers that we've never seen before, like the acorn. There's just so many that enjoy these trees, and there's actually very few beautiful trees around. There's a lot of trees, but people have different things like pepper trees, and eucalyptus, but these are pine trees, and I feel blessed to be able to have 3 pine trees. Of course, I could do something where I might be doing something other than blessing them at some point. But right now, I absolutely love them. And I'm going to leave them and work with the front garden. Maybe I'll put more flowers in here and set up more hummingbird feeders in here. My ginger and turmeric table with stevia in the back, and now zinnias growing as well. Yes, pink zinnias, and I actually let them go to seed, and I collect the seeds now from them. Aren't they gorgeous? This is just unreal. And I had so many this year that I've been moving them around in different places and trying to figure out where else I could put them. This is all brand new. Last year I had a few on there, but look how gorgeous. Look how, see? I dropped some zinnia flowers, the seeds in here, and look, it's already growing. I think it's just wonderful. I think it's so great that you can start a flower and then collect your own seeds. But going back to this, set this up and got serious this year, and I planted all the different ginger and turmeric. Now you can see the turmeric by the great big leaves. Turmeric, this is the regular orange one. Some people call them yellow. This is the regular turmeric, and look at the size of the leaves. And then the skinny leaves that you see back here, that's the ginger. So once it comes up, if you forget to label it, you'll know. I color code a lot, like this one in the blue one. This is the black turmeric, and see, they have a stripe. I've got 2 containers of black turmeric here, and then Gary's got some. And I don't really use a lot of it. I really want to concentrate on the regular turmeric and ginger. And the other thing you can do is if you're eating ginger or turmeric and you see little nubs on it, you can cut those off. I've got a whole video on that because you can grow it from the skin. And I've got it growing on my kitchen window. I really got to get them in bigger containers because they took off just from the skin. You just shave a little bit off, instead of taking a fork or a spoon when you're going to scrape off the skin of the ginger and the turmeric. Well, you save that and you put it in some potting soil and it will take off and grow. It's been great. I told you how I am not going to ever grow turmeric in a big container such as a tote, because turmeric, go watch the video, goes down and ginger grows across the top. So with the ginger, I could pick, like this is ginger, I could go ahead and get that right off the top. That's not an issue. But with the turmeric growing underneath, I would have to dump that, and I don't want to dump that. So it's easier to dump a small container into a wheelbarrow and then go through, collect what you want, and then replant back or store for the winter and plant later. So it's doing really good. And just think, in December and January, this will be all brown. But it will grow until we go through like a freeze. Now let's go into the bird garden, which I'm letting go to the birds. That squash plant came up on its own from seed. It never grew any squash. Definitely want to compost that and not grow anything from it. Even if it throws one at the end, I wouldn't want it. This is just an old tree collar that eventually is going to have to come down. See, it's been here. You've seen it on every garden tour. See how it broke apart? A piece broke down there, so you got a whole new one growing back there. But this is just sitting on a chair now, but this is going to make fantastic cuttings. And that's what I'm working on. I'm going to work on that all winter. Each piece on here, every piece here, could be the perfect straight cutting if that's what you want. Of course, you can cut it up and have multiple small pieces where it will bush out. But if you wanted a nice straight tree collard, you could take these all off and cut them. And that's why I haven't taken it out or done anything with it. I can't really get back there to clean yet, but eventually I will. But look at all this. I mean, these are all plants. So easy to grow. Same thing with the purple tree collard. Now, this one that is in the pot here is the original purple tree collard I bought on eBay years ago now. And you can't really see it, but it goes over the fence and it's hanging all the way down, many feet down. But see all this, let me try to get in here for a minute. Each one of these could be cut. Now I could cut this off and then I could cut it up and do multiple plants. There's a lot of different ways you can do that. And I have been little by little doing, oh my goodness, I don't know if Gary knows, but we have another flower. Look at that on the dragon fruit. We've got this dragon fruit he forgot to pick. It's small. We got to get that off before it goes. But look at that, another flower that's going to open up in the next couple days. So, and there's another fruit that he pollinated. We lost some of them due to the rain. He was trying to pollinate them. We had some really bad rain at night and it ruined a lot of the pollen, but we got tons of fruit, so it's no big deal. But anyways, so that's it. And that's the original purple tree color that I bought on eBay. I did get some from CPG afterwards and we planted those around, but that's the original one. So are they related? Nope, they won't be related, but I've got different types of purple tree colors. So one might be a little bit different depending on where the other person got theirs. That's it. Like you can see, not much here. These are the containers now that are, what, 6, 7 years old, and they're still going good. So as long as they're still together, I'm going to leave them. This thing, too, with all the mint growing, this is strawberry mint, has a different leaf. That's chocolate mint. That's growing really good. I wouldn't pull them. Once they get older, your totes, if you're growing in totes, that goes for flower pots, too, anything plastic. You would want to empty them pretty much and lift them. But otherwise, when they're young pots, young totes, you can pull them around. But it's always better with anything. And think of your furniture. You want to kind of lift it, move it around. But you'd want to do the same thing with the totes. We moved those there quite a few years ago because they were here up against the glass door. And we decided to move them, and they moved perfectly fine, and they're still going strong. And you know what? The lemon verbena and the broccoli and the dinosaur kale, all that, even some dazzling blue kale, it's all going really good. I'm really, really happy. I have to get in here very, very soon. And here we're going to go into another maybe heat wave during the week. They're talking about going into the 90s again. I need to get through here because, see, one fell down. See this stick there? Because all this is basically done with zip ties, tape, and yarn. And now I want to go in here and wire it, and then I can get more water features in here. I want to hang water features in here. I want to get more feeders in here, trim it back, and as you can see, I've got zinnias growing everywhere. All started with a couple plants I planted out here, and now all I have to do is collect the seeds. This is ready to collect. See how the stem has gone brown? Once the stem is completely brown, I can take that all off, and those inside are good. You know who hasn't discovered the seeds yet? Our goldfinches. I was surprised. They've got so many other things to eat around the yard, they haven't touched that yet. But once they find it, like the purslane, we've got purslane growing all over. Look what they've done. They've chewed up all the purslane. They take all the little black seeds out. But years ago, about like 2, 3 years ago, they never touched it. They didn't know what it was. So once they find the zinnias, they'll eat that. See, my roses in the back are starting to throw roses too. So that's it. I've got mint growing on the bottom. Oh, look at my hummingbird lunch. This whole big plant, it's taking off. How cool. The hummingbirds love that. They come in here all the time. So hopefully, going back to this, this is the gazebo that Gary found in the trash. Hopefully in the next month or two, it will start to look really neat and clean and maybe get some water features hanging in here. Because, well, nothing's running right now because we have no sun. See, all the water features are off because we're completely clouded in. There's no sun peeking through at all. So my bucket's not running, the candlestick's not running, nothing's running except for the electric one. This one's electric, and this one's electric. Oh, little goldfinch just left. So I like a combination of both, and then I've got some other ideas on how to get water features to run when you don't have sun. You can get the battery ones, or you can buy yourself a battery. Let's see here. Kitty's garden is still green. It's been growing off and on broccoli. I snap it off and give it to her. This is a tote we push back there. Still not sure if I'm going to leave it there or not. So this is just nothing with nothing. Like I said, I've got a lot of cleaning and things to do, but I'm analyzing how I want to do it. You know what's really cool? Almost everything you see, except for the geraniums that are growing around and the zinnias and the few flowers for the hummingbirds, is edible. So what I love doing is coming out here in the morning and foraging through and collecting greens. And then I bring them in and decide, do I want to put them in eggs? Do I want to just make a green drink? Do I want to make a coleslaw for dinner or lunch or to add to a sandwich or something? And I kind of decide on what I want to do. But this is all edible. The leaves are going to get bigger as the weather cools. Look how beautiful it is. and I'll have even more food to forage through. Like this is like a dazzling blue kale. Look how small they are because we've been in such hot weather. Brassicas don't like the hot weather, but that doesn't mean they're going to stop growing. They just grow smaller. And then if they go to seed during that time, it doesn't mean the plant's going to die. But what happens is they put all their energy in the growing seed, so you'll end up with tiny leaves. You can cut the seed heads off. I don't see much seed heads left on. This was probably a seed head here, but you can cut them off. But if the plant continues to try to throw seed heads, then it will still grow small leaves until it's done going through its cycle of throwing seed heads. And then it will take off and grow. Even this plant, that's kind of a three-way hybrid. I love this. It's a type of brassica. The same thing with this, when it's growing a seed head, the leaves get small, and as we go into winter, these things can become massive, really, really big. And that is a plant I really want to concentrate on, take cuttings, because there is no way to grow that from seed. It came up here, as you can see, in a bucket. It's even in this container here, and it just started to grow, and it's beautiful. The rich, dark green leaves are fantastic for health-wise, and to use for stir fries or anything when it gets really big. You can use it for wraps. Let me see what else we can look at that. They're ravens. They're going around collecting everybody's avocados in the area. I've got my lemon balm. I think it probably needs to be moved a little bit. Might be a little tight. And it also had a lot of sun beating on it. We had 10 days of 100+ degree weather. And so it did take a toll on a lot of the plants, but all in all, they're doing okay. A little nursery for walking onions. This is sweet potato, and I've just let it grow, and I really should get in there one day soon, see what's in there, but I think it looks so pretty, I just leave it. And of course, you can collect those leaves and add that to a green drink too, which I do. There's sage, and then this was, well, it was a nursery for walking onions, but right now it's kind of gotten big, and they're having their own babies. See how they grow the walking onions, and then they'll pop open. See, here's one here. Isn't that cool? Those are more baby walking onions. So my babies are now having babies, which means I got to move them. And that's basically it back here. I mean, like I said, I've got lemon verbena. It's all food. It's pretty much, I'm going to say 90% back here food. Boy, they were loud flying through, the ravens. And then here, I'm going to move this eventually. I want to get a chair garden in here. Keep it off the ground, so if a rabbit or something wanders in, they won't be able to get on it. And I tend to have less critters go onto anything when it's on a chair, when it's slightly lifted. Oh, look at this. I've got squash growing here and got a tomato plant that came up in here too. Isn't that cool? And then there's eggplant in there too. I've been harvesting eggplant. There's nothing on it right now. And this is one of the cuttings I did. See how big the leaves get? See how dark green they are? Isn't that gorgeous? I mean, you think of all the health benefits in that. And then this is purple tree colored. I want to get purple tree colored all lined through here, and I think that would be really cool. There's another cutting of that plant that I like so much I did. It's growing straight, and I should get cuttings off of that. But yes, I want to put a chair garden here and then have all the birds feeding under the gazebo we set up. And the reason is the crisscross I put on there on the top, that's to keep hawks out. No hawks go in there because the way they swoop, they can't get in and out of there quick. And that's very important, going in and going out. If they can't swoop, they can't just go fly in there around all the wood, say the branches, and they can't get in and out is what it is quick, because they want to swoop, catch something and keep going. And that has prevented any issues with hawks by putting the crisscross up there. And of course we have papayas here. Look at that. This has just been amazing. Here, I think what I'm going to do also is I started to put pots here, and I'm actually making some soil in here. Took an old tote, and I'm just dumping kitchen scraps and stuff right now in there. And of course, when it drains, it feeds this papaya, which really helps. But I think I'm going to slowly encircle the papaya with pots. And that too will give it an added benefit, because layering, I mean, think of, you know, in the wild nature, everything's layered by leaves and stuff. By layering with pots, I don't know if there'll be anything here right now. Nope. Sometimes you find earthworms and stuff. It's too dry. Sometimes I find scorpions. This will be an added benefit for the papayas. So that's basically it for here. This is one of my pride and joys. Look at this. And this is something I'm doing cuttings on right away. This broke the other day, but as long as I leave it on here until I'm ready, see it, that little tiny bit, it's still feeding this. And that's why I've left it. But I'm going to take this off and I can cut this into 2 or 3 pieces for cuttings. But look at the rich color. Planted that years ago and it's growing in this tote. It's so big it's falling over, but it's in that pot, and then I've got the mint and celery growing in here. All right, let's step out. That's one thing we'll have here in Southern California is we will have food all winter. It may not be squash or melons and stuff like that, even strawberries. You might find the occasional one, but we will have vegetables. We'll have greens, and there's a lot you can do with greens. We lost that big papaya, you know about that from over a month ago. A second one fell recently. I guess they got old and we've been in a drought. So something happened to them, but that's okay. I'm starting the new batch right here. So we'll see how that does. And as soon as they get a little bit bigger, I'll lift that because that trash can has no bottom. Right now they're still planted. I've showed you this. Oh look, it's gonna split off from the top in a cardboard box. So this will set root much better than when I dragged them out here in pots and then they set the root through the plastic pot. That one just has to go through a cardboard box. And the pomegranates, they've been long picked and they are done for the season until next year. My pride and joy, my rainbow garden. I absolutely love it. That's the potato mint. As soon as it starts to die back, I'll collect all the little potatoes and we'll be eating that. They're little tiny looking things like potatoes, but you can eat them raw. So they're crunchy and good, or you can cook them like potatoes. We'll get into that another time. Look at my red roselle. Isn't that beautiful? So I've got a pepper plant growing back here from the grocery store. Just bought this hot orange pepper and threw the seeds in there and it's growing. There's my 2-system compost bucket. I collect this. See how the water slowly drips? Now I can go water the plants and that is plant food. And yes, we still have a rabbit living under there. And let him live there. He's not bothering anything. More potato mint. This came up on accident. This was not planted in here, but I decided to leave it because, you know, some people say it's rare and it's hard to find. So I'll harvest that in the winter later on as it dies back. When it does, it loves the heat. So it's just thriving right now with our hot weather. But eventually it will die back. And I don't even know where it came up in here exactly because I didn't have any. So a piece must have got in there and it took off. And this is my poor tomato plant that has been eaten by the deer. We still have a few tomatoes, but also have been harvesting tomatoes. And then here, the squash plants are still growing. Okay. And they're getting old, and some of them may go, this is actually Korean melon. They may go all winter and throw the occasional squash. Sometimes I get that. Depends on the weather and how cold we get. So we'll see, and here's a cutting. See, there's that purple, beautiful brassica, the kale. Isn't that gorgeous? It's so deep purple. I'm doing more cuttings on that. And then I've been picking my pepinos. We've got a few left on here. And some of the plant turned a little yellow. It does that, but I'm also going to do some cuttings. There's another black cobra, and there's a red vein sorrel back there, and then the watermelon. Oh, you've seen many. I'm done doing watermelon videos for this year, but I think I am. But you've seen many of my videos on that. Look at this. If you look back on the last one, this was so small. This one is getting close to harvesting. Look at the size it is. This one's growing slower, but it's extended from that, so we'll have to see. The one down there did not grow. It's still small, but it's about that big, and we'll see. And then I've got this one. Now, what I did with this one here is I trimmed back a lot of it that went past it because we're not going to get any more watermelon. This is amazing that those 3 plants in there went back and produced more watermelon after I harvested the last one. So that was great. But it also has a complete 2 system. This one I did not get to. I said in the last video I was going to. A lot of things were going on, so I never got to it. So I've got the 2 flower pots, but the issue is I've got a squash growing in there. So the squash is taking all the added nutrients from the watermelon. So you got that going on. And it's not getting the food, the watermelon that it needs. And there, the onions aren't taking anything. So when I water the yellow bucket, it goes into the bottom. I can throw leaves and different things. It decays with the microbes, earthworms, and then it continues to feed the watermelon. And the watermelon was getting the signal as, we got a lot of food, let's keep going. This one did not have a lot of food. So though it is still growing, the watermelon plant. This one hasn't had any more fruit. And I don't know if it's too late or not. So I'll decide as the month goes on. This is a cucumber plant, and I don't remember what type of cucumber it is. And this tomato plant, isn't that amazing? There were like 100 tomatoes on. I keep picking them, and I'm freezing those. And this one is one that came up from seed. It's like a midnight snack. They kind of are black, and then they turn red. Oh, and then here, I'm starting to do some cuttings. Isn't that cool? That is off of the plant I showed you that's real purple. Now the cuttings are coming in green, but isn't this beautiful? Now by leaving it in here, in my little greenhouse, or whatever you want to call it, I won't get the moths on there. The cabbage moths come on there, and then they just, well, they do a number on the plants. They've done a lot of them, of mine. They've eaten them. But here being covered, and here I can show you real quick the difference. See this one, I believe this is a top cutting. See, you can see it's just nice and straight. It's going to have some side ones. And see, this is a stem cutting. See let me see if you can see this. See, that's the top. So it's bushy. They're growing out from the side, where this one is mainly growing from the top. So it's whatever cutting, the way you want to take your cuttings, that's what you'll end up with. But either way, they're fabulous. And then again, potato mint in there. That was in a little pot, and I just sat it in there, and it took over. So we'll see what happens with that. Let's just do a quick walk down here. And let's see, the tomatoes are still growing. I have been getting hornworms now because the orioles are gone. They're officially gone. Look at this. My favorite plant. I'm collecting seed. Look at this. This is the type of cucumber it is. I bought one plant, and it is just sending out side shoots and everything. And there's like 1, 2, 3. Okay, that one went a little yellow in the back. 4. And there's probably more here and there. They are wonderful for eating. They taste sweet. I do like peeling them, but you don't have to. And I make a cucumber salad out of it. And those things will get massive. Now I'm going to trim some of these today because I think they're big enough, even though they will get double the size almost. Almost, look at this. But it does slow the production down. As soon as it gets too many cucumbers, they start to not grow. See how they're turning yellow? So as soon as I remove all those, they will just go into a burst and grow more. Cardboard garden, it's basically gone. I'm not sure if I'll put the cardboard boxes next year back. Maybe I'll do it here, I don't know. But the tomatoes are really struggling in there. Everything is struggling. The cardboard, it just is not as good. It maybe is good for, it's good for a quick fix, a quick garden. And the peppers are doing okay. But I think I'm going to move a lot of that. And, well, I tried it. And I'll decide. But when you look at that and then you look around at all the other things growing, they continue to grow, but this doesn't. Okay, here I kind of moved it because of the storm and different things going on, the heat wave. I got all the totes out. You saw I think last month you saw the totes were in there. We decided not to leave them out in the sun because I'm not getting to them right now. And then these are doing really good. I constantly am coming out here and picking fruit. I don't know if there's any out here because I came through and did a sweep recently. Oh, see, there's one down here. So we've got one growing down there and there. Oh, well, see, so much for a sweep. Oh, that's beautiful. I got to get that off right away. Now, if I keep the leaves on these trimmed back, continue to feed these plants, it could be with their own leaves, I could produce squash all year. I won't get a ton of it, but I will get squash all year. If we go through a freeze and we get into like the 30s, then they will die back. But all I have to do at that point is just, start again. And that's okay in the spring. And then my meadow. There's my shoes. A few of you used to see the shoes out front. And you go, are you going to grow in there? Yep, I'm growing walking onions in there. Oh my goodness. I see a whole bunch of tomatillos back there. I'm going to have to climb in there and get those. Because see these? Okay, I like when you grab them, they come right off, but they're done. I can come through here, pick all these, and I want to freeze them. So I can make salsa all winter, even if we're not growing tomatillos or tomatoes at that point. I freeze them. And that's it. So the ponds are doing good. Oh, look, we got a burp out of this. This has got a bigger solar panel too. And I think that makes a little bit of a difference. And that's a nice one. It was cheap. I think it was about $15. But that's what's going on here. So I haven't really done too much thought about a lot of stuff, but you know, time really just doesn't seem to be enough. The truck bed is doing good. There's squash in there, I couldn't get into it. That is an issue because it's so big that I grabbed some stuff out of there and a lot of stuff I didn't, and then all the tomatillos took over, and that's perfect. Let them grow, and I might even toss some tomatoes in there. But yes, there is still squash growing and different things growing in there. As you can see, there's still stuff I haven't picked. There's a zucchini in there that looks like it's 2 feet long. I never got into it. It's kind of the truck bed is more of a novelty. We've got to do something else. Gary wants to pull it away, and that may really be a big change. It's going to be a big job. That's why I told him no. He wants to pull this away from the wall because, well, he doesn't want me balancing on a block wall, which I don't plan on doing. And if you pulled it away, you'd be able to reach the whole thing. So we'll see, but it's fun to grow in. Even if I didn't pick everything in there, I make my own soil. And these days, making your own soil is important because I had some bad batches of soil I purchased this year. Everything here is doing okay. The trees got chewed up by some of the deer because you've seen the deer come through here with me. And they love trees. And here's the avocado tree. I'm thinking of putting some buckets around it. And my chair garden. I love the chair garden. I still have a watermelon here. So there's one more watermelon to pick. It's a good sized watermelon, and this is long ready. When I leave them out here, oh, look at my red roselle. Make sure it's coming through the top, yes. And see, now it's trying to throw more watermelon. I should get that off and get a pitcher in there or a 2 system. I may be able to get another watermelon or 2, but I think it's kind of towards the end. And that's basically it. I've got squash still growing, as you can see. And I'll get more squash all through here, walking onions, garlic chives, celery. The beans, I do want to collect those seeds. I should do that within the next day or 2 or I'll lose them because I actually left them so I can collect the seeds. I've got Swiss chard growing in there, but there's too many in here. If I wanted the Swiss chard to be big, I could leave 1 plant in here and it would get massive, but I've got walking onions in there. I think there's beans still growing in there. There's sow's thistle growing in there. There's tomatoes, but you can see the tomato plant's been attacked by hornworms. We don't have hornworms all spring and into summer because of the orioles. They come through here and I put sticks there for the orioles to grab onto because they can't climb onto the tomato plants due to the stickiness of them. The tar that's on there, that's what they call it, tomato tar, and they can't wash it off. But when you do sticks, they can climb onto that and get into everything. And then here are the cuttings that I did, and I showed you the rootings, but I do think we're too late in the season. So next year, I am going to do a lot of cuttings and rooting a lot. But the seed one is growing, and then I've got a bean growing through here, and we'll see. But I think it's too late in the season for anything that was too small because we are in the fall and our weather is changing, as you can see. It was cool last night. So it was kind of a quick get around. Oh, let's look over here and then we'll wrap this up for you. Look at that. This is a turmeric table. And I am flabbergasted over that because all this turmeric that's getting really big is growing in leaf matter from the pepper tree. It's creating soil. Now, when I dump them out later, if I decide to, because these are little pieces of turmeric and then I've got bigger turmeric, I had all that extra turmeric. Look at this. It all grew in leaf matter. And the leaf matter, if you look here, even down here, look how the leaves are turning into rich soil. That's nature. See the mushrooms that have come up here, the fungi? This all grows and turns all this in the soil. Well, I grew turmeric as it was turning in the soil, see? You don't eat this, but look at it, it's just underneath. Look how rich and black it is. If you remember, it was nothing but leaf matter. So this experiment worked for me so well. Look how some of it got so big, but every single pot grew. So I have a choice. I can either find a nice dry spot for it in the winter, or I can leave it there. You don't want turmeric or ginger to be left outside wherever you are if you get damp and cold. It's not going to grow once the weather cools down. And if it's too damp, they will rot. Now you can move them in a garage. They're in pots. I could throw them all in a wheelbarrow and take them somewhere and put them out of the rain. You can leave them outside, but you don't want them damp. So you'd only make sure the soil is not rock hard. If it gets a little dry, you can always water it a tiny, tiny bit. Or The other way is to dump everything out, go through it, collect it all, bag it up or wrap it in newspaper or something, and then just kind of store it that way. There's a lot of different ways you can store it and keep it. And then you could freeze what you want to eat, or just go through what you're storing and eat it that way. Or like I said, I think the main thing is keeping it in a dry spot, and then you could just take it out when the weather warms up, put them out, and as soon as they get a lot of sunshine and warm weather, they will just burst into life. And here I just started a new table real quick. And I'm going to fill this table up with walking onions, and there's walking onions. Now this table's a little lower, and the reason I put some baskets on, because I'm not sure if the rabbits jumped up on here. Nothing has jumped up on that one. That's a good height. But this one is too low to the ground. It's probably about 2 feet. So it's too easy for the rabbit to jump there. And they ate a little bit of the ginger, the stems. But all in all, I think they're doing pretty good. I just kind of sat this here. And then I threw some walking onions in there. So anything you've got you can raise off the ground, you can grow in. And I am trying to collect a lot of walking onions, because if they fall, the babies, they just dry up. Here in Southern California, we're too dry, and walking onions fall, and that's it. They're done. So you can collect them. You can't really store them that well. Some people have bought stored ones, and I've heard you say, oh, they didn't grow, and well, that's why. They don't store well. They're actually a plant when they're growing, the walking onions, and they're ready to be planted when they grow. But, you know, everybody's got their own way of doing things. So with that, I think I've covered everything, and I want to do a quick garden tour so you can see what was going on, because it has been a month since you've seen everything, and it's fun. I've seen crows come and I shouldn't say crows. We don't have crows anymore. The ravens drove all the crows out. Ravens come in here, and they go get water from the pond, and we've had coyotes at night, and all kinds of animals go to the ponds. I leave that for water because we're in such a severe drought, and I'm really pleased. For the two of us, we have more than enough food. I will say, let me sit for a second, that if I had a smaller garden, and yes, it was my idea to set up all these different gardens, they would probably be far bigger and more beautiful, because I'd be able to tend to it. But right now it's like I'm tending to this, and then I'm running over there and I'm trimming all those leaves, and there I'm not doing anything there, but I'm constantly running around all over. Then I want to work in the bird garden, and it's kind of like a mad dash all over, but that's spreading myself thin. Right now I'm okay with that, because I'm experimenting with different ways of setting up things. The chair garden is beautiful. This is 2 years old and going strong, and nothing bothers it. I don't have squirrels in here. I don't have rats in here. You would think, being out in the open, who's my biggest culprit? Right now in the fall, probably tomato hornworms, because there's no more birds that eat them unless the bush tits find them really tiny. That would be one. And then the other one in the spring are the deer. They come in here and they'll nibble around. So I'm starting to kind of get the deer off with tool, because, you know, I'm lucky here. The ones we've got here don't like tool. If they touch it, bump into it, they move away from it. But otherwise, nothing gets in there. And that's why we've had so much watermelons, zucchinis. I come out here and collect. There's red vein. I've got the red vein sorrel, but I also have Swiss chard in there, the red Swiss chard and green Swiss chard, and different types of squash growing in here, and celery. Everything is fine. Nothing touches it. The birds do go in there, but the birds tend to eat the insects. I'm really, really pleased with everything. Oh, look, I see blue sky down there. Maybe we'll get some sunshine today. So I hope you enjoyed this. Go ahead and ask questions, and like maybe when I'm going to plant the cuttings, I'm going to do tons of propagating of different brassicas, and I've come up with a different way that sounds really odd, but you know what? I experimented and it worked fantastic, and I'll probably be sharing that with you really soon, because I don't know if anybody's using it the way I'm using it. But it was cheap and it worked, and I'm happy. So with that, have a wonderful, wonderful day. And don't forget to eat what you grow. Bye-bye.